That's not too loud, is it?
No, that's good.
Huh?
That's good.
All right.
That's good.
To the HBCU SPORTS LAB and feel my team one alone. With the law, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if there was, you tired. I'ma do the dab, yeah. That's Cavil. We know what he be talking about. Talking about talk. They know what they be talking about. Talking. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they will take in your team. If they want a lot, let me know about. So listen to Professor. Yes, sir. And pay attention, as we go through the lesson. And you gon' learn today, how you play, how they play, boy. You gon' learn today, how you play, how they play. Who represent that swag? Let me act, yeah, let me say, what's up to Tennessee, say. Tune into the HBCU SPORTS LAB. We got the real, Mike and Charles, and I'm yeah.
It's Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. It's that time.
Yes, sir.
Welcome and thanks for joining us for the only weekly sports talk radio show that is dedicated to exploring the sporting HBCU dash with its unique HBCU cultural identity, including the teams, the band, coaches, athletic directors, and classics and homecoming events, as well as the sport management, business practices in the competitive sports industry. This show seeks to provide innovative, progressive, and informative dialogue about the week's HBCU sporting events, issues, and ideas from a fan's perspective. We look at the Southwestern Athletic Conference, better known as the SWAC, the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, better known as the MEAC of the NCAA Division I, Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, SIAC, Central Intercollegiate Athletic Association, CIAA of the NCAA Division II, Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, GCAC of the NAIA, and independent programs such as Tennessee State of the OVC, and Langston of the Central State Football League. And we don't forget Edward Waters College out there in terms of another NIA independent program getting it done in the Sun Conference over there out of the NAIA. During basketball season, we'll bring you some Red River Athletic Conference with several HBCUs doing their thing in their conference, and we just get it on like that. Before, guys, we let you give the HBCU sports updates, let's give some shout out to our Facebook partners over here, those that are chiming in and checking us and joining us today. Trey Allen Nelson, Anthony McLean, getting in on the mix. Keith Benton, he's always in there. I see you. What's up? What's up? Keith? He's saying what's up to everybody. Charles Osall.
What's going on, Charles?
Willie Hayes has jumped in the mix. I see you, big Willie Hayes. Coach Willie Hayes over there. Big time Bulldog boy. He live. Helicopter Hayes.
Big week for the Bulldog.
Oh yeah, he gonna try. That's why he in here. He want to hear it. We gonna give him some love. Yeah, we gonna give them Bulldogs some love. They getting it done, but they got a big road trip this year. They can make a statement. Marion Ray this week. We see you. Yes. HBCU athletics is great. We certainly agree. Sonia Clark, Lamy here. Todd Jackson in the mix. Talking about hey Jafus. Yes. What's up?
Did he say Jafus?
Yeah, it's somebody know my first name. You know I don't use that. That's my closer.
You know you really well.
Yeah, that's a young lady. So it's Sonya Clark. She knew me back in high school.
Okay.
All right.
Before I went off to Prairie View, she went to Texas Southern University. She shouldn't shut it out there. So let's go ahead with this HBCU sports report.
Sure thing.
Get some breakdown here. Let's start with Charles. What's hot in the news? Hot in the mix that everybody must know this week in HBCU sports.
We're going to shift gears just a little bit, and we're going to give kudos out to the Alabama State women's volleyball team. They won their 28th consecutive conference match last night.
28?
28 in a row with a 3-0 win over Alcorn Monday night.
Wow.
So we have to give kudos out to the Alabama State women's volleyball team. And I was chided this weekend to make sure that I mentioned volleyball because volleyball
they need some love.
Yeah. So we're gonna go with the volleyball player of the week. Exactly. Offensive player of the week is Alexis Austin from right here, Texas Southern, 5'9", outside hitter from Fort Worth, Texas. She tallied 30 kills this past week as they split their contest with Southern and Grambling. Austin knocked down 15 kills and she was 32% while recording 7 digs this past week. Defensive Player of the Week. Been working on this, Mike.
Yeah.
Pai Ioja from Alcorn.
I like the way you said it. Pai
Ioja.
Yes.
Defensive Player of the Week. She had 40 digs and added 4 kills and 8 assists and a pair of service aces this past week. Serve of the Week was Vatera Calais from Southern, 5'7" from St. Martin, Louisiana. She had 67 assists this past week in 2 matches, tying her season best of 39 versus Prairie View and adding 28 more versus Texas Southern. And the newcomer of the week, women's volleyball, is Meredith Seek from Alabama A&M. She is a 5'10" setter from Ankeny, Iowa. Seek accounted for 72 assists in 3 matches this past week for the Alabama A&M Bulldogs.
Wow, how they recruiting?
Well, I had to mention I was told this weekend Houston is a tremendous hotbed of volleyball club talent, and
Absolutely.
if you go through the rosters all through the SWAC, there is a tremendous number of young ladies from the Dallas-Fort Worth and Houston area on everybody's roster. So I want to make sure I gave them some love today.
Yeah, I like that. I appreciate that. Mike, do you have any HBCU sports news that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so they had the Crank Fest.
Crank Fest. That just sounds like it's going to be some fun.
So you had, as usual, you hear this State Fair Classic, and you see Prairie View's band, the Marching Storm against Grambling, and then, that's a big band, but you had the Crank Fest, and if you read all the Twitter board, I'm not going to go on record as saying who was best, who came out on top.
I will.
So, all right, well, who would you say?
If you read the unofficial polls.
What's the unofficial poll?
The unofficial polls in these message boards and in these Facebook rooms, the Sonic Boom of the South walked away with.
I must admit that they received a large number of votes on several polls and several message boards. So I will give you kudos to that. Southern also got honorable mentions as well. Of course.
I'm glad you straightened me out, because I was like, man, it seemed like some home cooking going on. Got a lot of Jackson State love going around here. We had an interviewer that is looking at becoming the provost of Texas Southern University. He's from Jackson. He knew you.
Okay.
From junior high. So y'all just like everywhere. I say, hold up. He way out in California. He was similar like your partner, a friend that decided to get out of Jackson and go to ski. He went to Stillman undergrad. Now he's with PhD and the dean of the College of Liberal Arts in Laverne University after being the dean of Jackson State's College of Liberal Arts.
Awesome. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I figured when I put all that together, it add up. But yeah, it's a small world out there. Any other HBCU news you got going on?
Big one. Melvin
He
Hines
said, just a little.
resigns as Alabama State Athletic Director. That came as a bit of a surprise to many.
Yeah, it was a surprise to many after winning multiple championships. Unfortunately, that was one of the news is where you don't necessarily want to know. I found out early, but this is one of the things where I had to take off my news sports reporter cap and put on the business responsibility hat, and so I had to hold that news. But it was tough. I've seen him do some great things at Alabama State, but also in regards to just becoming friends, for lack of better words. I invited him to a CSR conference that we did in South Carolina, the one that you went to last year. He went 2 years ago. And so it was really dynamic. He was excited about that, and he's posed some questions to me about that program. But it also gives you a part in terms of understanding the business. I've always told athletic directors, understand reading the tea leaves, as they say, in general business frameworks. You know about that, Mike, at the high level you operate in the corporation you're with in a lot of ways. And you as well, Charles Bishop, that when new managers come in, you have to understand that there could be a transition point going on. When you see that with the he has a new president coming in. So when you have a new president coming in, that can start to change things in regards to what's going on.
Yeah, it also kind of lends you, because since he took over in 2012, 2013, he has 4 SWAC Commissioner Cups.
Right.
So you have to understand there's some other moving parts at play. So what's underneath the surface that we don't know? You know, so that I mean,
yeah, but from what I understand, obviously you had the previous APR issues, but they were cleaning those up.
Right.
So you could use that if you want to, just as much as you could use the keeping with the championship. My understanding, a lot of times, I'm telling you, it's as simple as this. You got a new president comes in, he wants to do different people.
Right.
And when you're in a position like the athletic director of leadership, you're going to have some people that love you, and you're going to have some people that hate you.
Right.
Point blank, period. I don't care how good you are, how bad you are. You're going to have some people that are on your team and some that are not. And some people that don't see, no matter what you really do, they're not going to like it. And then you're going to have some people that everything you do, they're going to like.
Right.
Which obviously, usually it's in the middle somewhere.
Sure.
To be fair for no matter who the AD is. But, or in this regard, president, deans, same thing.
Yeah. It's
cyclical. Unless you really are high on the resume and you come in certain positions. But that's why a lot of times you see coaches, ADs, and presidents at that level when you're at what we would call, in a lot of people's, a volatile position. That's why they sign contracts.
Yeah.
So the other question is to talk about where you are on your contract side.
Right.
So we talk about that all the time. You look at the Alabama State football coach. Obviously, he's at a down year. Most people would say 3 years is not necessarily enough time to build a program. Obviously, with his resume, many people thought they would be in a much better part.
Right.
But the fact is that he just signed a 3-year contract, essentially. He did have 2 years as an option, but they're at the university's option. So new president, new AD, that can make it very challenging for a head football coach.
Yeah.
No matter where you are on the radar. So it's always important to understand that. We're going to take a break here at Dr. Ville's inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We'll see you back quickly.
All right.
Yeah, Holly in here talking about the business there. But he talking about we were just with it.
Yeah.
Say, man.
You're around every time I scoot over, the volume goes up.
Yeah, just watch this. It.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Just stay right there. I forgot that thing was short. See that camera right there? That's the one I'm using.
Okay.
So I was trying to get y'all closer.
Oh, okay. How's that?
Mike, just move over a little bit. Just move over. No, that way.
Oh, I got players of the week.
That way everybody's in there. Okay.
Players of the week in each
Okay.
conference.
Jump back on there. Yes, this is Dr. Oop.
Race ipsa loquitur. Race ipsa loquitur.
What time is that first coach calling? Doc.
6:15.
Oh boy.
Charles, did they use those tickets?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. All four of them?
Mm-hmm.
Good, okay.
There were some people at the tailgate that didn't have none.
Good, okay. That's good. As long as they use them, okay, good. Thank you. Doc, when we come back, there ain't gonna be no more commercials. We'll run that other
That's
one.
perfect.
We'll run the other one, then there won't be any more.
Okay.
We'll run one of them.
So you said when we come back, that's it?
Yeah, there's no more commercials.
All right, good.
I'll run one more on the other TSU.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then we'll be through.
Then we're good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That way you want the world. I know y'all get caught up in it.
Yeah, I like that.
Prepayment plan with no prepayment penalty. Bill will pay all taxes, fees, penalties, and interest
I'm gonna sign you out of this one.
Okay. Perfect.
When it ends. Get a check back later.
972-786-5234. That number again, 972-786-5234. Give Danny a call today. NMLS number 333-293. Your tax office may offer installment plans that may be less costly. You can request information from the tax office. Here we go again.
Imagine how fast your commute. Being able to spend more time with your family, feeling relaxed when you get to work, and improving our air and traffic. Road warriors for smart commutes do all this and more. You can too. Carpool, vanpool, bus, bike, or rail. Try something new one day a week. It could be the best thing that ever happened to your commute. Visit findasmarterwaytowork.org. Brought to you by Commute Solutions, a program of the Houston-Galveston Area Council.
Is it getting any cooler out there?
Not yet.
Man, it dropped about 10 degrees. I don't want it to get too cold. But that would be perfect. You ready in about 1 minute? Like that.
All right, cool.
Prepare and protect Houston and surrounding regions for future hurricanes, tropical storms, and man-made disasters. Enroll in the Emergency Management and Homeland Security degree program in the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs at Texas Southern University. Already have an associate degree? You can seamlessly transfer into our bachelor degree program
That's good.
at Texas Southern University. To better plan, prepare, and protect our nation, our cities, and our neighborhoods from natural disasters, pandemics, and terrorist attacks, whether chemical, biological, or nuclear. We need a new generation of emergency management and homeland security thinkers, planners, and
30 seconds.
administration professionals. If you want to help protect your community and our nation, come join us at Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs at Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. For more information, contact Dr. Michael O. Adams, 713-313-7760. That's 713-313-7760.
This is Dr. Kenyatta Cavil with Dr. Cavil's Inside HBCU Sports LAB with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Give some more shout outs before we jump back into it. Kevin Gordon said, what's going on there? I see my barbers on here, Frederick Williams Sr. Yeah, them famous cuts. Keith Benton said, what's up on the big game in Dallas, PV Grambling State? You know we're going to get into that. Bruce Melvin.
Doc, you're scared to pick the game. Doc,
Yo, I'm going to let these fellas handle it. They'll be able to bring the knowledge. You want me to get in there?
Yeah.
I'm going to get in the mix too then.
Yeah, okay.
We got Dr. Michelle Richardson over there at Alabama A&M. Getting it done. Sport management professor. She's tough now. Don't mess with Michelle. She'll let you know what's going on in sports. Langston English. Raymond Holly is in the house.
Oh, Raymond, tailgate buddy.
There you go. Trey Allen Nelson, one of my former students there. Coach Mark James is in it. Virginia Union. Getting it done. Yeah, they take a break this weekend after the big win they had, 28-7 over St. Augustine, putting them right back in the mix in the Northern Division of the CIAA.
Yes, sir.
It should be interesting. They haven't lost a conference game, so don't forget about those Virginia Union University Panthers.
Yes,
they in the mix.
Oh, please, really? Come on, now. Let's not take that too far.
I'm just telling you, Brian Barfield, that's the famous Ralph Cooper back there getting it done. He's in there driving all the studio, making sure that we sound good. Brian Barfield said he's proud of us, and we certainly appreciate that. Let's get back into the mix. Any last updates we want to give the people as we move on and start talking about some of these matchups?
Sure. I wanted to touch on the offensive and defensive players of the week. We'll start in the SEAC. Running back from Albany State, McKinley Habersham. He rushed for 184 yards over miles. I've been wanting to say that all day. McKinley Habersham. McKinley Habersham with 184 yards with a 34-9 win over Miles. And defensive player of the week was actually linebacker for Miles, Austin Stevens. He had 17 tackles chasing around Habersham. 17 tackles, 12 of them solo, 2 tackles for a loss, and 1 sack. And the newcomer of the week in the SEAC was quarterback from Lane, Thurston Rubin. He was 21 of 37, 199 yards in a 28-23 loss to Tuskegee. That one got real interesting in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it scared some people in there for Tuskegee Golden Tigers. They're coming out the hole. I know they're going to try to say like they never had it in doubt, but we shall see.
I don't know. 28.
What is, Mike, you got any other updates, player of the week? So you have some more players of the week, different conference?
Sure.
Go ahead. Let's give all these people some love.
Okay.
Well, I go to the CIAA Offensive Player of the Week in 3.5 quarters of work. Quarterback Amir Hall, 22 of 32.
3.5 quarters of work.
329 yards. Yeah, ho-hum, 64-31 win over Fayetteville State. We take a look at the MEAC Offensive Player of the Week. It was quarterback Lamar Reynard, 18 of 31, 298 yards, and 21-7 win over South Carolina State. And the Defensive Player of the Week in the MEAC, linebacker Jeremy Taylor from North Carolina A&T, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception. And we close out with the SWAC. Offensive Player of the Week was quarterback Devontae Kincaid, 19 of 31, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns. He came in off the bench and came back and sparked Grambling.
So you had any update of why he was coming off the bench?
Well, he was injured the week before against Valley.
Okay,
so
I knew they kept it quiet, but I don't know everybody realized that.
Right.
And so they were hoping they could keep him and have him back for Dallas.
Yeah, but they needed him.
That's the point. They needed him.
So I guess since we're talking a little bit about Grambling players of the week, newcomer, you got the offensive player of the week, quarterback from Grambling State Tigers. Then you got the newcomer of the week,
LaVale McCullough.
Yeah. The quarterback for Prairie View A&M Panthers, right?
Tremendous game.
Boy, he sell some tickets.
Hey, he could have sat down early too. So yeah, he could have sat down early too. Yeah. I think it's gonna sell some tickets up there. You got,
but let's not get too fast on the offensive side. Let's talk a little bit about the defense.
I was wondering if one of you were gonna come in with that because I think those Panthers are playing some defense as well.
So. In the MEAC, you had Jeremy Taylor, as he alluded to, linebacker senior, 3 forced turnovers. 1 prevented South Carolina State from scoring deep in their territory. And then in the SWAC, you had Isaiah Thomas, defensive back from Alcorn State, 13 tackles, 3 for a loss, and 1 interception.
What position he playing?
Defensive back.
I don't know if you want defensive back making all the tackles. I thought that's what you were saying, but I thought I would just slide it in there. You love that fact that he's tackling, but I'm not sure.
I was going to nominate the Prairie View kicker, but now I saw Noel Ruiz.
Yeah.
From North Carolina A&T, field goals of 41, 36, and 27 yards.
Check box.
Yeah, he got it. He gets my vote.
No question there.
So got to keep the defensive and the special teams on board.
Shout out to Avery Jack, Vicky, cousin there, getting on board, checking us out. I appreciate that. We also have a request. Keith Benton says coaches on the hot seat. Jackson State, Alabama State, Mississippi Valley State. Talked a little bit about Alabama State. Is Valley's coach on the hot seat?
I don't think Valley's coach is on the hot seat. I think he's in, unfortunately, just a tough situation up in Mississippi Valley. But
scholarships.
Scholarship. But I don't think
you can point it out.
Jackson State, first time.
See, I was gonna throw it to Mike, but you ready to get in on that one?
I mean,
you can't hide from it.
You can't hide from it. I mean, they're 0-5.
That's tough.
And it didn't look good Saturday. It was a poor performance Saturday against Prairie View.
Those fans for Jackson State, I love them. They were out there. They were excited. They were selling those 12 tickets. They believed and they wanted to believe.
I think
and they deserved that.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, I tell you, they don't take too kindly when it don't work out for them because they got out of there.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
They're not used to it. Let's be frank. When they're not used to it in terms of the program.
Exactly.
I mean, as a Prairie View, alum, and obviously as a fan in a lot of ways, you like to see that the tide has finally turned over many years.
Sure.
So you don't take me saying that.
No.
No. So what you're saying really is.
Yes, sir. Yes, as I said, I'm just saying.
Yeah, the fan base in Jackson can be pretty tough. So it is a rough time right now for Tony Hughes, 0-5, and it really wasn't an inspiring performance. You're trying to figure out in what direction is Jackson State going, and they probably need this off week more than any other team in HBCU ball right now, because they're going to have to figure out some things in terms of how they move the ball. Number one, they have a tendency to get inside the red zone. They'll go from 20 to 20, and I don't know what happens. There's a mental something that happens, because I can't tell you how many times this past year where you will see either a penalty or an untimely sack or whatever the case might be, but they have shot themselves in the foot all season. Another game, 5 turnovers, just a very poor performance.
Yeah.
How much of that was Jackson State and how much of that was Prairie View? Because I know what frustrates a lot of fans is the fact that they tie history to where a program is at a certain given time. And I want to make sure we delineate the difference between where a fan base has expectation of where their program must be versus actually what's taking place on the field, and seeing the difference there. How much of what took place in your eyes at Prairie View was Prairie View versus Jackson State?
Well, I think in terms of a few of those fumbles, kudos to Prairie View's defense, because they forced the fumble. I think when you muff a punt or you fumble on a kickoff, those are things that Prairie View did a great job of stripping the football and forcing the issue. And they played with a short field, got a couple of touchdowns early there, and things just really slipped and went downhill for Jackson State. So I think in the previous games you could make an argument they really hurt themselves, but this past weekend, Prairie View did the damage that they needed to do, and Jackson State really looked outmatched, to be very honest with you.
Certainly, Mike. I want to get your opinion on that. Before that, we're going to go to the line. Is this Coach Simmons? Coach Willie Simmons? Yes, Coach Simmons. You sound like you're excited already. It's game week. I hear that in the voice. Yes, sir. This is me. How's it going, Coach?
It's going well. How about you guys?
I'm doing well.
How you doing,
you
Coach?
see, if you're not excited, we excited.
How's it going, Coach Simmons?
Saturday morning.
Yeah,
we saw you on 104 radio station in Dallas.
You did a good job on that.
Did a great job.
They set y'all up. Say, hold on, man. We didn't come talk about that.
I'm talking about a whole lot of other stuff.
But no, seriously, I thought you handled that well with all things considered. Tough questions, in a lot of ways, they should be answered. It's always nice to know they're coming your way. But let's get to it. Let's close out last weekend, because what really everybody wants to talk about is this weekend with Grambling and Prairie View. But let's do justice and continue with our format as we traditionally do. Let's rewind a little bit and talk about your game against Jackson State University, a very big physical team that you were able to get out of there with in a lot of ways, a dominating victory.
Well, I thought the guys did a really good job of responding to the challenge that we presented to them earlier in the week. We talked to them about not getting too high after the big game versus Alabama State, not looking ahead, to this week's game versus Grambling, and just stay the course and what our goals are for the season, which is to get better every single day. And I thought that the team did a great job of accepting that message. The seniors did a really good job of stepping up all week. The enthusiasm was high. The attention to detail and the focus was as good as it's been, and it showed on Saturday. The guys played a complete game in all three phases, offensively, defensively, and the kicking game. And again, there are a lot of individual performances that were outstanding, but as a whole, I thought the team did a really good job of channeling all of their energy and focus to the task at hand. And like you said, coming out of there with a pretty convincing victory over, which I still think is a good Jackson State football team.
Yeah, sometimes as fans we get caught up in the scores, and also caught up in teams' record. And sometimes you're playing tough competition. Other times the ball doesn't just bounce your way, but that doesn't mean a team is talented and physically in a position to get it done. So it's interesting you say that. But let's move on in a lot of ways where I believe a lot of people's focus will be this weekend. Let me let Mike jump in here and ask some questions.
Yeah, Coach Simmons, kind of as Dr. Cavil alluded to, moving forward here and getting ready for Grambling, it was hard to get the guys grounded and get ready for Jackson State. Now that Big Apple's here, the Big Apple's in front of you, and you see McCullough went 11-25, Lavelle, and there were some passes that he may have been off on a little bit, and he seemed to settle down. Overall, looking at the locker room, what are you doing to get the guys' psyche ready to face this big juggernaut known as Grambling? Because for all intents and purposes, statistically, they were beaten in the Chicago Classic until one Devontae Kincaid came off the bench. So now what do you do to get your guys' psyche ready for if Devontae Kincaid is in the game? That's a different offense. It's high-powered. It's high-potent.
Well, I mean, I don't think you have to do much this week to get the guys motivated. You know, the challenge was for them not to look ahead to this game, last week. So as soon as the Jackson State game was over and we got in the locker room, I mean, those guys were talking about Grambling, and again, they didn't even really have a chance to enjoy the victory versus Jackson because, again, we try not to talk about it as much, but this is a game they've had circled on the calendar all year. Yeah. Again, it's not hard to motivate them this week. The challenge is to make sure that our emotions don't allow us to not focus on the details and the little things that it takes to prepare yourself to win a game like this. Again, you're talking about the two winningest programs in the SWAC over the last 10 years going toe-to-toe again. And so I expect it to be a physical football game.
You stole my thunder there, Coach. Yeah. I was going to throw that one out there.
Yeah.
I like that.
Was my next follow-up. I mean.
My bad, Doc. Let's pay back for my suit.
I feel I got my fault.
Yeah, so, again, it's about the preparation that it's going to take to make sure that we're prepared to go on Saturday. So that's been our focus this week. Again, it's not going to take much to motivate them. Had a really good day yesterday because of the weather. We're going to have a later practice tonight, but I expect another good spirited practice tonight, and we'll continue to work until Saturday, and hopefully we can put it all together to have another great performance.
Good deal. Let me let Charles jump in here and follow up with a question.
Hi, how you doing, Coach Simmons?
What's wrong, Charles?
Coach Charles has been down all week. So.
All week? Man, you should have seen him coming outside the tailgate.
He couldn't even tailgate.
He couldn't find. Never mind. I ain't gonna tell you what he was looking for.
Oh wow!
But it was something in the cooler.
Yeah, congratulations, Coach. Great victory last week. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about your defense. How encouraging is it going into this huge matchup with Grambling for your defense to put on a performance like they did this past week against a big and physical Jackson State football team?
Well, I tell you what, man, for 2 weeks in a row, those guys have played lights out. Again, I tip my hat to Ralph Street, our defensive coordinator, my assistant coaches for the job that they're doing in the film room of really studying our opponents and then giving our players a scheme that they can execute. Our guys have a lot of confidence in what we're doing right now. They're playing extremely fast. And guys like Devon Reed, James Harper are really being dominant up front. And I tell you what, Jalen Williams and Anthony Stubbs are playing as good at linebacker as I think I've seen in a really long time. So, again, we'll definitely need that this week. I mean, we're facing another high-powered offense, the reigning SWAC player of the year in Devontae Kincaid. So, we have our hands full, But, again, I think the defense will be up to that challenge. And I'm looking forward to see how they perform this weekend.
Certainly. So, let's get into the time. Well, let me first ask you, any follow-up questions either?
Well, well, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I'll let both of you do
since you had a rough week, I'll let you go first.
Well, Coach, I did want to ask a little bit
Drinks
about...
on you tonight,
I know.
Exactly.
Right? Can you compare and contrast Grambling 2016 to Grambling thus far at this point in the season, Coach?
Well, again, it's tough to gauge them. Again, they played Tulane, who's the FBS opponent, and then they played Jackson State, who we played, and then they played, Clark Atlanta, who's a Division II school. So, sometimes it's hard to get a true gauge of how good they are or, what the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's Grambling. It's a team that's been the best team in the conference over the last few years. And again, they have the reigning player of the year coming back at quarterback. Martez Carter's the first team All-SWAC returning running back. So, again, they're not short on talent. Of course, I don't think they're as explosive out wide as they were last year. And of course, they had Chad Williams, who was a third-round draft pick. and Verlaine Hunter, who's a 6'4" wideout. So I don't think they're as explosive out wide, but everywhere else they pretty much look like the same team. So again, it's going to be a challenge for us, you know. But again, I think our guys will be up for the challenge, and hopefully we can put it all together Saturday.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, and
certainly, Mike, jump back in.
Yeah, and just going forward, you had kind of a rushing attack. You had the law firm of Tucker, Broach, and McCrae associates, and then you had Nico Hollins kind of pulling down a lot of the passes. Are there any takeaways or any slight tweaks that you looked at going from Jackson State to Grambling on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, you know, schematically, Grambling does some things that poses some problems, so you have to adjust your game plan to fit what they do defensively. You know, again, they're high pressure defense, play a lot of man coverage, and they're going to challenge the offensive linemen to be sound in their protection scheme. So they're going to pressure the quarterback. So, you know, again, I think every week poses a challenge. I mean, that's what play calling is all about. It's about devising a game plan that, you know, takes advantage of what the defenses do, and that's our job this week against an aggressive Grambling attack. So again, you can't necessarily look at last week and then compare it to this week. There's some things that we're doing well, and we want to capitalize on those things. But we also want to make sure that we're scheming, you know, a way to get our playmakers the ball. You know, we have to get Lavelle going in the passing game. We have to find a way to get Josh Simmons and Kadar Hart and Darius Floyd involved. I mean, those guys haven't touched the ball maybe as much as we'd like to the last few weeks. And to get them to play at the level they're capable of playing at, because right now the running backs are playing at a high level. But I think we'll need a strong passing attack this week against a Grambling team that's first in the league in rushing defense, but last in passing defense.
Absolutely.
Certainly. With that, take us in the coaching room as you start to sit down and prep for this game. Take us in that locker room. Really let us know what are the things that you're focusing on. What are the 2 or 3 things that you believe you need to do to be successful? Obviously, they're all part of the 7, but in particular, is there anything that you will let us know that we need to be keying on that we may not think about in this particular matchup?
Well, I think one of the important you know, kind of games behind the game is the fact that we're 1 and 2 in the constant turnover margin. Now they're ridiculous, plus 11, which is unheard of in 4 games, which means that they're averaging about 2.5 a game, maybe 3 a game almost, and we're plus 5. So I think the team that can protect the football and you know, find a way to get them on the other side of the ball will have a huge advantage going into the game. So that's going to definitely be an emphasis for us. Again, regardless of the scheme, I think it will kind of start up front on both sides of the ball. You know, how well our offensive line, again, plays their aggressive style of defense, you know, in the run game, picking up the multiple blitzes and packages that they bring. And then defensively, you know, we can continue to stop the run, which we've done a great job of the last couple of weeks, and also get after the quarterback. You know, when you play a quarterback as dynamic as Devontae Kincaid, you have to get to him. You know, again, he's elusive, he's hard to bring down. But again, it's going to take a great performance from, again, Devon Reed, James Harper, Jalen Coleman, Cliff Moulton, and all those guys to keep him at bay. So I think that's definitely the challenge for us. And then the last thing, again, is just to control our emotions. You know, it's going to be a heavily charged game. Yeah. It's a game that those guys have heard about for a year now. You know, so we have to go into the game poised, play with emotions, but again, control our emotions in the sense where we're not getting crazy penalties, we're not beating ourselves, and we're giving ourselves all the advantages in the game.
Certainly, that makes a lot of sense. I like looking at it that way. And those will be some key factors that we'll keep an eye on in regards to this matchup. Again, thank you for your time, Coach. You know, it's a busy schedule as you prep for this game in Dallas. It's normally a big game period, particularly, as you said, over the last 10 years with the 2 winningest programs. See, I had to sneak that back in with Prairie View. And actually, several of the championships have come out the winner of this game. 4 of the last championships in 10 of the last years come out who is the winner of this game. So in a lot of ways, all eyes will be on Dallas, Texas, and Big Tex. As we see, he pointing down there looking in the stadium in the games here. As we normally say about this time, thanks again, Coach. Go Panthers.
Go Panthers.
Go Panthers. Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
say that again, Charles.
Go Panthers.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting in the sting of that matchup when you think about that fact is that you have had both teams play Jackson State.
Yeah.
Obviously, over the years, the Jackson State Grambling has been a rival, particularly over the last couple of years when Grambling has had to travel to Jackson a couple years, so that added to the fuel of fiction. And obviously, each game is independently there. But does that give you any indication of what we may expect in this matchup in terms of the way Grambling played against Jackson, and then what you saw with Jackson against Prairie View, particularly with Jackson going on the road for both games?
Sure, and I think Coach Simmons, he touched on it. Grambling not quite as explosive as they were last year with Chad Williams and Verlon Hunter on the outside, but
you said that at the very beginning of the season.
They lost a lot of pieces. Yeah.
You said that, and people kind of was like, "This Grambling, what are you talking about?" But now you're starting to see it a little more in action, and if it probably will be exposed at any time this year, maybe other than if they're able to get past Prairie View, play for a championship, that's another chance for it to be exposed. And certainly if they're able to get through that when they play a team like North Carolina T or even a Howard Bison, let's not say that's done yet. Regardless, that's another chance when you're playing up to that level.
Or even Alcorn.
That's why I said it, because I was thinking they probably going to play them in the championship game. Shout out to Alabama A&M. They have a chance to make a point this weekend.
That's not so fast.
Right.
I'll feel you with that. That's why I wanted to make sure I snuck that in there. But I think that's interesting that you pointed that early, and now we see that it could make big dividends in this weekend for Prairie View if that's truly the case.
And the health of Devontae Kincaid going forward, I think that's a huge factor. Of course, we mentioned that he came off the bench this past week against Clark and really sparked them to a victory. But they still have one of the most explosive players, not just in the SWAC, but in all of HBCU football, and Martez Carter.
His name is Devontae Kincaid. And the one that people don't realize is Martez Carter.
Yeah, Martez Carter is a guy, he really hurt Jackson State when they played them. And he's a guy, he's a game changer.
Yeah.
You know, he's
an X factor.
He's very much an X factor.
As you said, he's a game changer, but he's the type of guy when you're not hitting all cylinders or you're not having necessarily the best physical talent across the board, he's the one that can separate you in a lot of ways and make things happen when it doesn't look like it's going in your favor in terms of just over muscling in terms of the way I see it. From both of those positions, and that's why they still are a very dangerous team.
Exactly.
Yeah, and going back to your point, you and to your credit, as Dr. Cavil pointed out, you pointed this out at the beginning of the season. But with Martez Carter and with Devontae, they still, for whatever reason, have the ability to go from 0 to 6 in a matter of a quarter. Still, with those two players.
Right.
So, are they as good as explosive as last year? Yeah. But I still think they are good enough thus far.
Yeah.
Until we knock them off, they're good enough to probably contend for the SWAC.
I mean,
he's in it to win it. He's talking to
we. I got that. But I mean, they are the ultimate rope-a-dope team.
Yes.
I mean, you talk, we said it all last year. They did it. You know, Alcorn was up on them in the SWAC championship.
Yes.
Bam, bam, bam. All
Central.
Yes, all of a sudden Central.
Exactly. So
early in that matchup.
I mean, and we've seen it thus far this season. They kind of lay in the weeds for a little while, and then enough.
Okay,
and that's what you have to be prepared.
All right,
for.
we're gonna take it from 0 to 6.
Exactly. That's Grambling. So.
Certainly with that, we got Grambling State Tigers quarterback Devontae Kincaid. Led the Tigers.
Who you picking, Doc?
I got you. I'm going to shade that to the end of the show. They got to keep listening before they get that magic. We'll find out. Just keep listening. As we said, the Tigers won that victory 31-20, but in that game, Kincaid had 278 yards passing with 3 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. His longest pass was 59 yards to tight end Jordan Jones. I really like how they have matched up on a tight end in terms of throughout this year, so that's something to keep your eyes on too. He also added 31 yards on the ground and 59 yards receiving with a touchdown in terms of what Jordan Jones was able to do. As well as Prairie View's quarterback, Lavelle McCullers, had a game against Jackson State, he threw for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns. We talked about a little bit about it on the ground. He had 68 yards, which was big in that matchup. Then you had Prairie View and Panthers safety, Reggie Stubblefield, starting to hear his name quite a bit. Performed great against Jackson State. He had finished the game with 6 tackles, a forced fumble, and 1 interception, and 2 pass breakups. The Panthers defense was flying all over the field of Jackson State, and this report is coming to you by Meshach Sullivan, I should say, Media Relations Director for the Heritage Sports Group, as we talk about the Big Ben Award coming up on Wednesday, November the 29th. It is going to be at the Sheraton Suites, Houston, near the Galleria, so we'll start getting you information. You get your tickets going in that game. You also had linebacker Anthony Stubbs is starting to become a regular on this list as he dominated in that game. He led the Panthers in tackles with 9. He also contributed in defense with a sack and in forced fumble. The Panthers defense only gave up 9 points in this matchup after shutting out the team, and 7 of that was a touchdown where they missed the extra point, but that was late in the fourth quarter. So
they also kept him out of the end zone until the last few minutes.
That's really
great. Until the last minute of the game.
Without a doubt. And then you had Southern's DeJuan Jones is the Big Ben Award Specialist of the Week in regards to going to what we see taking place here. So Offensive Player of the Week for the Big Ben helmet sticker was Devontae Kincaid, quarterback Dallas, Texas, 4 touchdowns, 360 combined yards. Defense was Reggie Stubblefield, safety Arlington, Texas, 6 tackles, 1 interception, 1 forced fumble, 2 pass breakups. Both of these kids are basically going home. Should be interesting. Special team works goes to DeJuan Jones, wide receiver Lamar, Texas, 150 return yards and a touchdown in the big win. So that'll do it for the Big Ben Award as we look at those stickers. Any players, national players that you want to give Big Ben helmet sticker to this week?
Well, I definitely got to give a Big Ben helmet sticker to Amir Hall. We touched on him at the beginning of the show. But 21 touchdown passes on the season through 5 games. He leads Division II in passing. Well, I'm sorry, second nationally in passing efficiency, 204.5 while completing 69.3% of his passes. He only had his first 2 interceptions this past week, so he 21 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3.5 quarters of work. He had a huge game this past week, and we see his work every week. He's perennially 300 yards. Definitely, helmet sticker goes out to Amir Hall, and I'm trying to reach out to Bowie State because I want to show them some love over there.
Yeah, they deserve it too right now. So, I'm in Texas.
When I contact these SIDs, call me back.
Yeah, say it again.
Call me back, please. I'm trying to give you guys some love.
Mark James included, CIAA. Y'all talking about y'all want the love. When we reach out, let us know.
Yeah.
We'll get you on here after these big wins, get your players some love so you can talk about them. We don't necessarily want you down in this region recruiting. I'm just kidding there. But really, we want as many players that have a chance coming out of high school get a chance to go on to college. Particularly, we love to see them go to the HBCU. That's why we do the show.
Absolutely.
In my imagination, one of the focal points we do the show. What are your thoughts in terms of any helmet stickers nationally that you want to talk about?
No, I want to give another one to, again, Amir Hall. He has, listen to this, 1,637 yards year to date. He's 327 yards per game, 21 touchdowns, and passing percentage of 70%. Usually, with any other player, that's an award of some type. Mm-hmm. If he continues that trend, I mean, what award should he not get? Right. I mean, so Amir Hall, just to add to the statistics that you added. So,
well, it sounds like Amir Hall is becoming a favorite, but he's getting it done. So I'll certainly give him due credit in return what he goes there. Before we move on a little bit, let's see if we can take a little bit about this mid-major poll. And see what your thoughts on here.
You know, Doc, before you get into that, boy, you got some more Grambling guys. They jumping in now. So Chad Jones, I see
Chad Jones on there?
Yeah.
Hey, we gave him love.
They want to hear what y'all talking about with these PVs.
Yeah, we gonna tell you. We're going to let you know the Panthers look like they're for real this year. Let's see if they can get it done. See what they thinking of. But actually, that's the matchup of the week. I mean, in terms of HBCUs. But I'm going to sneak back. There's one in the MEAC.
No, there's a MEAC.
Yes, sir.
There's a MEAC game.
Let's not
Hold
forget
up now.
those brothers
not so
over
fast,
there.
my friend.
I think there's a game over there that has a lot of people's interest that we need to make sure we talk about.
Yes,
while everybody's eyes in the Southwest, in terms of Southwestern Athletic Conference, in the Mid-Atlantic, Mid-Eastern, as they like to say, in the MEAC. I think there's this game in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
William H. Green Stadium.
Yes.
High noon over there. It's 11 o'clock. You have the North Carolina Central Eagles
against Howard
coming in for the Howard Bison.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that matchup. Let's go to a caller to make sure we get some love in here. Coach Mike Haywood.
What's going on?
Oh, doing well, doing well. Good to have you on the line for Dr. Phil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get in here and talk about that matchup against Alcorn State Braves. Last week, as we came into the game, you talked about how much talent Alcorn State has on the offensive side of the ball in a lot of ways, and that could be good or it could be bad. You really focused on that, and in a lot of ways is exactly what we talked about in the fact that you found a way to slow that team down, which for a lot of people weren't quite ready for. Talk a little bit about what your defense did in that matchup that put them in position to have success against a Brave team that usually puts up some points.
Well, the first thing is that we have to get used to their speed because in the first 2 drives, they're basically outrunning our linebackers and getting chopped down. And at the same time, we talked about their speed and physicality, and we just made tackles and didn't make plays on the first 2 drives. Coming back after the first 2 drives, we had that kickoff return for a touchdown. They got a little bit more momentum and they started playing with a little bit more confidence. We made some different changes in the secondary with our linebackers and nickelbacks that were in the game. Put the read on the tackle so that we can get a faster support. And with that being said, we played a lot better in the last 3 quarters of the game on defense than we did in the first 2 drives.
Certainly. Talk a little bit about the offensive side as you transitioning with the new quarterback. It seemed like he got a little bit about in his groove after some movement in the slow start, I should say, in the first part of the game.
I think Domin's going to be a really good quarterback. It was his first start in college football, so he has to get acclimated and get adjusted to the speed of the game. It's our job to do a better job of protecting him so that he has time in the pocket. We got a little bit more pressure than we anticipated, but I think that on a whole, we have to step up our game around it. Running backs, wide receivers, offensive line. We all have to do a better job to give him an opportunity because, he's coming in there with a fresh start. However, I think that the running backs played well in that game. I think Cook played well, ran really hard. I think Wood ran hard as well. But we have to get more productivity out of our offense as a whole. I think Dom can really help us if we give him time.
I certainly agree with that. Let me let Charles jump in here and ask.
Well, Coach, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Kennesaw State. We're starting to become a little bit more familiar. They've played Alabama State thus far this season, but what is it that you can tell us about this Kennesaw State football team?
Kennesaw State is probably the most physical football team we'll play. And they're well coached, very fundamentally sound. Offensively, they run that slot option. And so we're going to have to play a defense that we've never played before. So that we can try to stop that dive and then stop the quarterback and stop the pitch. And so we're going to have to do something, play defenses that we've never played before and see what we can do to slow them down and running the football. Because, once they get to the 40-yard line, it's a 4-down game. It's a 4-down game, and they go for it on 4th down, just like it's, it'll be 4th and 4, 4th and 5. They're going to still go for it. And so we have to find a way to maybe slow them down in the run game and force them to do more passing than they want to do. Defensively, they're an over front and an under front and bring a lot more pressure than anybody that we've seen. They're like blitzing their linebackers and the edge and up the middle. And so we're going to have to do a good job in the run game of making sure that we cut them down. Their defensive front line is extremely physical, does a nice job of shedding blocks and coming off. And their secondary is solid. They play really deep, so you can't beat them deep, but, they're a solid football team in the secondary.
Mike, let me let you jump in
here. Coach Haywood, kind of looking at the overall statistic, I mean, this was a very solid game going back to Alcorn State. And you were 8 of 18 on 3rd down conversion, much better than in Alcorn State. You had basically time of possession that was greater than Alcorn State. And if you look statistically, you were greater than, except for a few factors. So going into the Kennesaw State, what 2-3 takeaways do you work on to get ready for this Kennesaw State battle?
One of the things we have to make sure that we do is that we don't turn the football over. And every possession that we have, it has to be a valuable possession. The reason you say that is because this is going to be a really fast game. When you play option teams, you're going to get 8 to 9 possessions in the game. So you're going to have to take 3 or 4 of those possessions and put points on the board. So at least half of those possessions you're going to have to put one on the board. Because if you don't, because they're going to monopolize the clock, running the football, taking time off the clock. And if you don't capitalize on, I would say, at least 4 of those possessions, then you're not going to have an opportunity to be in the game. So there's several teams that have kept, into the 20s. You keep them in the 21 to 24 points, you got a chance to win the football game. But if they get into the 30s, that means that they're running that ball really well, and you have no chance of winning because you won't have enough possessions in the game to win.
So, Coach, I wanted to come back and ask you a little bit about the play of Dominic DeLira. He really, like you mentioned, he settled down toward the latter part of the game, and it kind of gave your offense a different dimension. But kind of talk a little bit about his play.
I think Dom is a really smart kid. He's really been up in the meeting rooms, Monday, Tuesday, really watching a lot of tape. Came up on Sunday also. We had meetings on Sunday, but afterwards he stepped in and watched tape. So he's becoming a really good student of the game, understanding where the passes should go and the different route combinations versus the different coverages. So I think that he's getting better I thought he got better as the game went on because he settled down. People don't realize it's his first college football start. So he hasn't settled into the game and get a rhythm. But I think that as he got into his rhythm, he got a little bit better, more comfortable. And so we're able to put a few more checks in this weekend, which we had last week. So to give him an opportunity to have even more success.
Certainly, Mike.
Yeah, Coach, just to build on it, and building off Dominic DeLira, it seemed like, just to ask this question from a different twist, it seemed like as he settled in, the players seemed to respond to him. You had Tyler Cook, you had Brad Woodard starting to really respond and really rush. What are you going to do to kind of build the support around him? Because Darvin Kinsey also jumped into it and had positive plays. What are you going to do to kind of take that to the next level with Dominic DeLira? Because it seemed like the offense took a different dimension than with the previous quarterback. So I was kind of wondering what's the next step?
Well, the next step is one that we're going to have to get more players involved.
Okay.
Right? And when we talk about more players, we're going to have to get more of the wide receivers involved. Joe, Blair, Buck 30, which is Decoy and Jones. We're going to have to get those guys more involved. Tailback-wise, Cook and Woodard are really doing a good job for us. Backfield, they're getting better each and every week. We have to get the tight ends more involved. In the last game, we got Mario more involved into the game, and he caught a couple passes, and so especially the big play down the middle of the middle read, he did a nice job. But we got to get Jayton in there, and then the difference is if you go back and you watch the game, there are opportunities for big plays, and we didn't make the big plays. I told the players the other day, that's not players, that's coaches. Right? We have to do a better job in preparing you to make that big play, or putting you in a psychological position to make that big play. At the same time, we have to do a better job of blocking. We have to do a better job at the fullback position in blocking. Because as I explained to them the other day, we were extremely soft and tentative. We were not very physical at the point of attack. And it goes along with the wide receivers as well. You have to learn how to share. Before you're going to get this ball this week, you're going to learn how to block. And so we have to make sure that we do a very good job of blocking. And then when we're blocking, because of the defense in which they play, it opens up more passing game in which you can do a lot more and call a lot more aggressive plays if you do a good job of blocking.
Certainly, Coach, this is obviously my favorite time of the show when we get into the point where we get to ask you about taking us into the locker room, taking us in there with the coaches, or taking us in there where you take the time out yourself and really start to look at what are the 2 or 3 key factors outside of what we kind of discussed here that you really start to hone in what it's going to take for the Tigers to bring home that victory.
Well, the first thing we're going to do is that we're going to have to stop that run. We can't allow them to run for 300 yards. And so we're going to have to stop that option. And basically, it's not stop it, slow it down, in which they don't rush for over 300 yards. If we do that, then they have to throw the ball more because they get behind the sticks. When they get behind the sticks and have to throw the ball, then that's putting the game in our hands. The number two thing that we have to do is that we have to win the special team game. They're extremely physical in the special team game, but they don't really have very good specialists. So we have to, like last week, number 10 was a special guy. This week, you just have solid football players back there. They aren't, I wouldn't say they're great, but they're just solid. And then the specialists, the punters, and the kickers, they're just solid. They do a nice job. They don't do anything special. They just do what they're asked to do. But we have to make sure that we do something special and that we win the special team game. We need another big return or a block. We need something to help us put us out in front on the special teams. And then offensively, we get eight possessions. We got to score on at least 4 of the possessions.
Yeah.
And we can't kick field goals in the red zone. We got to score touchdowns.
Right. Got it. I think that's really solid, and appreciate your time, Coach. Really like you coming on the show and being able to go through breaking down last week's game and this week's game, particularly when we get in that coaching circle corner. I appreciate that. As we say at this time, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Hey, we appreciate you guys. Have a blessed day.
No, we appreciate you, Coach. Thanks. Yeah, I like it. We get in that mix there and get into some different talk about just talking, having a little fun and breaking things down. But I left you on the hot seat to talk about that MEAC matchup. Yes, North Carolina Central and Howard. Let's break that down before we get in these top 10 poll rankings and see your thoughts on that. Talk about this matchup with North Carolina Central. They've been living on the edge. They have a 17-game MEAC win streak. Does it come to an end?
Well, I tell you what, I don't know if North Carolina Central has the ability to score with Howard.
That's right.
That's something that I really took a look at this past week in terms of North Carolina Central's ability to try to score the ball. They suffocate you to death defensively, and I think that's how they end up winning games. I call it kind of that old Pete Richardson style of football. Defense, punch it deep, and wait for you to make a mistake. And that's that's right. That's kind of the blueprint that we've seen with North Carolina Central. But this week, this is a little different with Howard. This is a different Bison football team. They put points up. Kalen Newton is bona fide. So
as a freshman,
as a true freshman. So that's going to be a tough trip to DC.
Mike, you want to get in on a little bit of this?
Yeah. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Just a simple question.
Oh, wow.
Okay, just one question.
Uh-oh.
All right. Who's number one?
He's setting us up.
Yeah.
Who's number 1 and number 2 and number 3 and number 4 in total defense? All right. It's A&T, South Carolina State,
and then Central.
Yeah. Okay. Where is Howard at?
They're pretty low now.
They're at the bottom.
Yeah, that's the problem. They score a lot, but they do give up.
You score a lot, but you give up a lot of points.
Where is Central offensively?
Yes.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, Central. They're number 4.
Yeah.
They're number 4. So they're middle
this
of the
pack. It'd be interesting to look at that over the last two games when they lost their quarterback, which is what you're going to jump in there. You got that it could be a little deceiving because you're talking about pre and post.
So I'm going on this statistics.
Oh, you're right.
Howard,
but you asked the question, so you had to give it to him.
Howard is number 2 in scoring, and that's to your point. But if you ask me to take number 4 in scoring, and at the top in defense versus last in defense and at the top in offense, I'm going to take the first. I'm going to take the latter. So it'll be an interesting matchup.
So you're going with Central?
Yes, I'm going with Central. I think they make it 18 straight.
All right.
Jerry Mack wins these close games.
I'm going to go with Howard on this matchup. I love Central and what they stand for, but I think it's just not enough with the quarterback as they go on the road.
I agree.
But if they're able to get it done this weekend, boy, I tell you, that coach there.
Yes, sir. It turns
Jackson
up.
need to put their buddy together.
Yeah, it turns up the pilot. It turns up the pilot around.
Well, let's get in these poll rankings and get your thoughts on some of these matchups, and maybe as we give the Division II programs, NAIA programs some love, let's talk about in regards to some of the matchups as we kind of get through this. So check that out. Dropping out this week of the mid-major poll is Miles Golden Bears. Number 10 is Morehouse Maroon Tigers. They jumped back in the poll 3-2, 1-0 with a big win this week, resuscitating the season as they kind of played that 500 mark. Same as number 9, Elizabeth City State Vikings, 3-2 on the season, 1-1. They dropped though; they continue to lose. Need to jump in there and see is it just the competition or have they had some injuries? They dropped 5 spots from number 4 last week. And number 8, Virginia Union Panthers. We talked about Coach Mark. He's getting it done over there, 3-2. He's 2-0 in that division. What I was alluding to, that Coach Mark James is not done yet. He moves up the spot as he tries to see if he can find a way to get what everybody seems to believe is the Bowie State Bulldogs, and that doesn't even count as rivalry game against Virginia State Trojans. Wow, that's a tough division. And number 7, Clark Atlanta Panthers, 3-2, 1-0. They played a heck of a game against Grambling State. They did everything they could and literally had to force injured Devontae Kincaid to come off the bench to make sure that the Grambling State Tigers can get out of the Chicago Classic. At number 6, Tuskegee Golden Tigers, 3-2, 2-0. They're 2-0 in the conference race. Have enough for the SIAC, but I have some concerns about this Golden Tigers team, and so they dropped 2. They actually move up 2 spots after the win, but still, they're not trending in what I would call the right direction. They're getting it done, but let's see. Number 5, Albany State Golden Rams, 3-2, 2-0. Taking some tough non-conference losses, but they get back in the conference mix. We'll get to see does that help right the ship as they are still 2-0 in the conference race. At number 4, Winston-Salem State Rams, 3-2, 1-1. They obviously have played the toughest part of their schedule.
There you go.
Now they're in that
soft underbelly of the South.
And now they can get right. And does that make a difference if they get to play for that championship? At number 3, Langston Lions. 1 first place vote, 4-0, 3-0 NIA program, very solid, quality, because they're way out here in the West. They're in the NIA, but they're getting it done. But they got to play that Arizona team that has won the conference the last 2 years. In a couple of weeks, we'll keep our eyes and get a chance to go deep into that matchup when it's upon us. At number 2, Virginia State Trojans, 2 first place votes, 4-0, 2-0. They stay at number 2, very solid, but it's intriguing how a team that is number 2 not necessarily getting a lot of love with Barlow, but that's what happens when you're playing with a Virginia Union team in your division, and then the high-powered, do-it everything, the number 1 ranked Bowie State Bulldogs, 5-0, 2-0, 7 first-place votes. That happens to you. It's amazing when you have number 1 and number 2 in the same division. Think about when that matchup comes upon us. Woo! That's going to be some fun.
That's going to be fun.
Let it go, fellas. Let me know, what do you think about the mid-major division of the poll rank?
Well, you mentioned Langston, and I have to give kudos to Langston. 4-0, 3-0 in their conference. Tough road game coming up against Lane College this weekend. We saw what Lane did against Tuskegee this past week, where they were down and out in the 4th quarter, 13 unanswered points, and they had a onside kick that they could not recover, but that would have made it very interesting against the Tuskegee Golden Tigers. Very good matchup coming up for Langston this upcoming weekend, and we'll see if Langston is really for real this upcoming weekend. Like you said, they got Arizona Christian later on, and they also got Southwest Assemblies of God that they need to
take care of. I don't think they have problems with Southwest Assemblies, but you may be on to something. But I can't wait till the Arizona Christian game between Langston. Can they finally get back over the hump and back in control of the Central State Football League? Mike, what are your thoughts on the top 10?
I'm not buying the Langston Kool-Aid yet. Not buying the Langston Kool-Aid just yet.
They did it to you last year.
I'm still not buying the stock. I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid just yet. I need to see them.
He hurts everybody's feeling, don't you?
Always.
I need to see them against Lane. Other than that, Bowie State, it's the 3rd week in a row. They're hanging greater than 60 points.
That's ridiculous.
On the scoreboard.
Can we officially say that?
In a row.
Is that ridiculous?
Like, good look.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Virginia State is underrated.
Hey, Reggie Barlow, how you doing?
I know those folks at Alabama State are saying, "Hey, Barlow, want to come home again?"
Hey, how you doing, Coach Barlow?
So, I mean, but the only common victory they have is Winston-Salem. They beat Winston-Salem, 33-27, but Bowie State beat them 31-13. So if you go against common foes, you see the difference. Yeah. But I still think Virginia State is underrated. I think 1 and 2. I don't think Langston's. I'm not yet. I need to see more from Langston.
Yeah, you need to see him against Arizona Christian.
That's what I was about to say.
I understand. I mean, hey, that's what everybody wants to see. That's the middle of the beast.
And I think
and both of them are undefeated in conference play, so it looks like that matchup is going to be exactly what we thought it would.
I think Tuskegee is suspect. They face who? Morehouse next.
Yeah.
I
think that gives us a chance to see.
To me,
are they better than what we think we've seen them play, or are they disappointed as much as we think they are in terms of that? I think it's a great one to catch, and we'll see if it proves out in the poll. Let's get into the major division, if you would. Dropping out of the poll this week was Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions 2-3, 1-1. We showed them some love and thought they maybe have turned the switch. Alabama A&M Bulldogs said, "Not so fast, my friends," as you would say, Mike. And Alabama A&M jumps in the poll. We'll tell you where right after this. At number 10, we have Florida A&M Rattlers 2-3, 1-1. They dropped down the poll, but find just enough to stay in the poll, even though they lose that tough game at home to North Carolina Central. Then you have number 9, Alabama A&M Bulldogs, 2-3, 2-0. They're not ranked. They have the matchup in a lot of ways. If it wasn't for what was going on in Dallas, all eyes in the SWAC would be down on the bluff in Southern. You have a team that may not have a quarterback in Southern. You have a team that is frustrated with a lot of fans in terms of what they're seeing. They found a way to bounce back a little bit against Fort Valley State in terms of the Division II program, the SIEC. So you got to give them some credit there. But do they have enough? Are the Bulldogs for real and have a chance? Can they make a statement? We'll see. At number 8, Howard Bison. We talked about that matchup. This is their statement game in regards to really say, are they changing their direction in terms of the football program, gods, as they say in a lot of ways, and really going to be a part of this MEAC race. We shall see. They're 2-2, 1-0. They actually drop a spot as they did not play, but they have a chance to make a statement, and we'll see how that looks. At number 7, we have the Hampton Pirates, 2-2, 1-0. They dropped 2 spots as they did not play. This is a team that goes to Savannah State, so they shouldn't have a problem, or we're going to at least find out, are they going to be able to at least stay in the mix? Because I know Mike has said, which I have to give them a lot of credit for, with their schedule, they've been in a position where they're not having a chance to really show that they deserve to be in the top 10. But we'll see how that looks like because they've got the win. So they would say, the Pirates fans say, yeah, we deserve to be here, and we'll show you. At number 6, Alcorn State Braves, 3-2, I should say, 1-0. They stay at number 6. When a lot of people didn't think they had a very impressive win, certainly to the position where they're not as scary as a lot of people thought they would be. But hey, they still have all that talent around them.
Precisely.
You did have an injury at a position wide receiver there, so we'll see how that shakes out and plays out. See if there was anything serious there. But let's get into the top 5. Tennessee State Tigers, 3-2, 0-2. See, we didn't talk a little bit about them, which should scare a lot of the Tiger fans. They're dropping down precipitously in the poll. At number 4, they lose another game in the conference, 3-2, 0-2. This one in double overtime on a late touchdown if they kick the field goal. Well, you talking about a coach that may be on the hot seat.
That's a real hot seat.
And this is a team that had a lot of people excited. They got the big win they needed against Georgia State. They beat the HBCU programs, but now they're in conference play, and it's not working out very well. A lot of people think the talent's there, so that's when coaches really get in trouble in regards to that. And plus, you have a program whose expectation is that they're going to play in the OVC, so no longer is it the same level of acceptance that is not quite going well in the OVC. I hate that because I think they have a solid coach.
I agree.
But at number 4, Prairie View A&M Panthers, 2-2, 2-0. They had that very strong starting teams, I should say, in non-conference. And people were kind of going back and forth. They got a little excited about the way they played Sam Houston State, but they got bulldozed, if you would, when they went on the road to play Nicholls State. But now we're starting to see maybe the Panthers are what we thought they are, and they have a chance to really get it done. And we'll get those scores as we quickly finish this poll. At number 3, you have North Carolina Central Eagles, 3-1, 2-0. They stay at number 3. We talked about that matchup with Howard. That's a top 10 matchup. We gave our prediction. We'll see how that turns out next week. At number 2, Grambling State Tigers, 1 first place vote, 4-1, 1-0, number 2. So this means you have a 2 versus 4 matchup, top 5 matchup. Similar in the MEAC, you have a top 10 matchup. 3 against, number 7. We talk about them playing 3 against 8, I should say, excuse me. So that's interesting, and that's why I lean more to the SWAC for a big matchup versus the MEAC. At number 1, North Carolina A&T Aggies, 10 first place votes. The Aggies are 5-0, 2-0 in conference play, getting it done. Played a very tough South Carolina State team, as you said, particularly defense. Probably closer than what some people predicted, but we said it would be a tough matchup.
Yeah.
We said if any team that can get the Aggies, probably more than Central that's used to doing it, and that's more about losing a quarterback than it is team overall.
Right.
We said the team that you want to look at is South Carolina State. Looks like we played a little dividends there because they made it interesting, but I think the Aggies are the real deal, and I'm not sure if they're going to lose the rest of the season, to be frank with you. Particularly, it's not going to happen until maybe the Celebration Bowl when they play the highest team out of the SWAC. We'll still see how that match up, but that's why they play the game.
Why they play the game.
What are your thoughts on these top 10 polls? Let's start with Mike.
Yeah, I think the team that has the most to gain, to be honest, is Howard. They have the most to gain out of all these matchups. I mean, Prairie View, we have them at number 4. Others are recognizing them. They've received even a couple of high votes for the polls. And Grambling, we already know they're 1 or 2. But if you look at that matchup, if Howard pulls out this victory, they have the most to gain, the least to loss, the least to lose.
Yeah.
So I think that game is huge. You're 1 and 2, no problem. A&T, by far, I think they've shattered expectations.
Very much so.
Coming into
that's
this
a great
season.
point, no question about it.
So,
And I think that shows in the first place votes with the 10 that while both teams are solid at number 1 and 2, the team that has separated themselves from everybody else for me right now is the Aggies. We'll have to see how they plays out the rest of the season, and I'm intrigued in watching these games week in, week out. And we saw with North Carolina Central, unfortunately, you may be one play away from having a great season go awry.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this top 10 or some of the matchups this weekend?
Well, I think tremendously disappointed in Tennessee State. Starting out in the conference 0-2. And they, on paper, have all the talent in the world, all OVC performers on the defensive side of the ball, both receivers, and for them to come out in the OVC 0-2, totally unacceptable.
And not scoring a lot of points.
Not scoring a lot of points.
The defense that they play.
Yeah.
But not just scoring the points that we thought they could play. And you're right, it's really coming up on the inconsistency on the defensive side.
Very much not enough to just beat an 0-5 Jackson State team in Florida A&M. That to me, that you didn't show me anything there. Do it in conference. That's what the Tennessee State fans are saying. Alabama A&M, got to show them some love. Freshman quarterback Akil Glass. They have a tough running game.
Can he go on the road as a freshman and get it done?
That is something that's going to be interesting to watch. Can he go on the road and get it done in Southern? And I'm not sure. I think that might be a homecoming game for Southern.
It is homecoming.
Okay, so you know that's asking a lot for the young freshman.
Not only Akil Glass, but Octavius Miles as well.
Octavius
2 or 3
exactly.
games, 100+ yards receiving. Kids getting it done.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but Southern and Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M is a tremendously physical team with Jordan Bentley back there running. Southern's shown they have problems stopping the run.
Yep.
Yeah, particularly in the second half of games.
Particularly in the second half
so
games.
it sounds like the depth is kind of messing with them. And I wonder in a lot of ways is that we don't always look at this. And I've seen this happen in the AP, in Texas Southern University. I wonder how much of that APR, even though they've got it fixed, how much of that has hurt them, that they've been able to play above that for years and not let it hurt them. And now, in terms of those recruiting cycles on the depth, they seem to have it up front.
Precisely.
And now you're starting to see that depth level, and they're getting some key injuries that makes it really challenging when you get into conference play. People know you. The rivalries become just that much more challenging. And then when you have the history of these teams like Jackson State, Grambling State, and Southern University, if you don't hit the cylinders, folks are looking for that opportunity to finally get a little bit of that payback.
I think this also emphasizes the point that Charles made maybe a week ago. Quarterback play, how important it is.
Yes, indeed.
It makes the difference. Look at the Grambling game. You bring the right quarterback into the mix. That same team.
Yeah.
So quarterback play is very crucial.
I mean, the health of Austin Howard going forward will be crucial for Southern too.
Yeah,
no question about it, and I hope that's not the end of the season for him.
I do hope that as well.
We got Jimmy Wilson talking about North Carolina A&T will go undefeated in conference play.
I agree, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think we're with you. He said he will take SU over Alabama A&M. So let's get into
I don't agree with that, Jimmy.
Let's get into some more of this. I see you, Jimmy. What's up? A&T is number 1. Yes, we agree with you. Let's get in what Ralph Cooper is waiting for. Let's start with you, Charles. Everybody's watching. We talking about that Prairie View and Grambling game. We gave you the kudos for the MEAC. That Cotton Bowl.
Who you like?
in the State Fair Classic, going back to 1925, Ben L. Cavil Sr., the HBCU Football Award named. He played in that game as a freshman. It's a lot of history in that game. What are your thoughts about Grambling and Prairie View? Top 2 winningest programs in over the last 10 years. Multiple championships between the two teams. Tell me.
4-4 in the last 8 games.
4-4 in the last 8 games. I think
Yeah.
this is the weekend that the SWAC winning streak comes to an end for Grambling. The rope-a-dope style won't save them this weekend. I think Prairie View has enough explosive players on offense to really make a difference. They're going to put up at least 24 points, I think, because Coach Simmons he finds a way to poke a hole in whatever your weakness is and whatnot. Defensively, I think that's what Prairie View makes the stand this upcoming weekend. I'm looking for Prairie View to win this one 27-21.
Man, it should be interesting when you talk about it. So you got 2 conference winning streaks going down this weekend. Mike, what you say?
Yeah, and I try not to be personal because of course, my affiliation. And I try to look at it objectively.
Michael D. Jones in here,
Yeah,
letting you set that up a little bit. He's listening. The theater's there.
Exactly. So I look at the balance across the board, and I look at Prairie View, 260 yards total offense, 208 rushing, 231. So 440 yards.
He's going into the numbers.
Balance. I haven't seen that balance just yet with Grambling, and that's something that Charles alluded to. I think defensively, you put the right defensive matchup, the right defensive matchup against Grambling, and I also have more faith in Coach Simmons in this matchup at this particular time.
Yeah, he hasn't got to win. This is his 3rd time in this coach matchup. But 3rd year has been the charm for Coach Willie Simmons. He did it 3rd year as offensive coordinator when he was at Middle Tennessee State. 3rd year with the Alcorn State Braves, he got it done with a championship. 3rd year for Hobbs over there at Grambling State, he got it done. I think with all that being said, Jimmy Wilson said Prairie View PVU. I'm going to leave it at that. No, just tease. I'm going to get it on the mic and make sure, just giving you a little tease. Yeah. I seriously believe it's Prairie View's time. In a lot of ways, I think they have the key that ails them, and it's on the defensive side of the football, as you said. I think that's ultimately going to be the difference in this game, is the Prairie View A&M defense is playing at a level that can bring you a championship, and I think it's going to be the difference in the game. I think ultimately in this game, you're talking about.
Charles gave a score.
You've been having high scoring contests the last couple of years. I think you're going to take it down a notch in terms of scoring. So I'm looking at 30 to
30 on Grambling?
Yes. Prairie View puts up 30 points, and Grambling is only able to put up, they make it a little more interesting. They put up 20. 30 to 20.
Mike, I have something 28-17 in my notes.
I'll have my score Friday.
28-17.
Yeah, y'all keep listening. Ralph Cooper the rest of the week, Friday, he'll have a pick for you.
Going with Prairie View.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the Panthers' turn.
Eddie Robinson is standing up in the heavens saying, how could they come into the historic KCOH studio and pick Prairie View to beat us, Grambling? But now you got Billy Nix up there saying, hey, Coach.
I just going to say, Billy Nix saying, hey, look here, before you became king, I was king.
Hey, you got Billy Nix saying, whose name was on that stadium?
And your ancestors up there, too, right?
Big Ben, yes. Big Ben L. Cavil, he's sitting up there watching.
He went up.
Yeah, he went up. He went up. Wildcat heaven.
Hey, man, thanks. Y'all do your thing. Close it out.
Yeah, certainly. Let's close it up as we get into it at this time. I want to tell everybody we appreciate you. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the sports professor with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As we come to a close, we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Prairie View A&M's football coach Willie Simmons and with head coach Mike Haywood of Texas Southern University. We want to thank you for listening again to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday right here from 5:30 to 7 right here on KCOH TV 92.9 FM HD2, The Vein, where we're pumping your system in the historic KCOH studio in Houston, Texas. www.kcoh-tv.com, www.kcoh-tv.com. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Again, that's DrKenyattacavil. Dream big and continue to move forward. As we always say at this time, we will talk with you soon. Course lecture dismissed.
These intellectuals.